here. Right. Oh man, I can hear the crickets going and everything. Rob, how's it going, my man? Thank you.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I appreciate you taking the time. Looks like a beautiful night over there. How's everything going for you?
Good, man. I thought, I looked at your channel and I saw some of the interviews and it was always just like a guy sitting in his sad fucking room, and I thought to myself, maybe I'll go for a little stroll. Maybe I'll go for a little stroll and by the river and get myself a nice cup of Joe and enjoy the sound of the crickets and the cicadas and the local wildlife, frogs, whatnot.
Man, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. All right. Well, look, I have to say, I've said thank you and I appreciate for the time, but as well for the movie, man. I got to check it out in full yesterday. It had the Shudder premiere. You guys have been doing different festival runs and different premieres. What have you been hearing as far as its premiere on Shudder? Have you had a lot of people shouting out to you?
Yeah, like on Twitter, people seem to generally like the film. It's really hard to tell. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just going to go by, like on Monday when Shudder, if Shudder calls me on Monday and is like, okay, Rob, we want to keep doing business, then I'll know that it did well.
Yeah, for sure.
But if because it all just depends on their little metrics calculation system or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, I'm just trying not to think too much about it.
yeah, for sure. And something I can say too, as far as like from different interviews and things that I've heard from you too, I appreciate, the integrity that you have behind it. Cause you've kind of mentioned before, like, look, I don't really need to be doing this, but this is something fun. This is something cool that I'm going to, an opportunity. And I have to say, well done, man. I mean, for your first time, this movie is fucking awesome. I loved it.
Yeah. I said that when I was talking with Alan at Fright Fest. I said, and he got a little like mad at me for saying that. He was like, oh, you don't have to be here, And I was like, but like really what I meant was like I don't. It costs money to take a plane ticket. It's someone's headache to put me up in a hotel and stuff. Like I don't have to like be going to these festivals, but like I just thought, it would be a good, like, you only get a chance like this one time to like go out. Also, another thing too is like festivals don't really matter unless you're there. Like if you show stuff at a festival, it's like, that's cool. And maybe you might win an award, but like if you're not there and like the people aren't taking pictures of you and you're not doing those little interviews and stuff, then it's like, it really is a wasted opportunity. So I made sure that I would be able to attend a lot of that stuff.
Sure. Okay. As far as being able to see the Sadness in a big screen now yourself, bring us back to your local video shops or theaters. Video shops being, a Suspect Video and Culture or a Silver Nail. What can you tell us about earlier memories of these places?
Yeah, I never really went to Silver Snail. That was more of a comic book store. And even when I was looking for comics, I would go to the Beguiling off of Bloor Street in Toronto. Suspect was cool. The first like, because they would just sell, VHS tapes that were cool. And one of the ones that I remember getting from them very early was Battle Royale. The Japanese one. Even earlier than that, I got like the Jet Li's first movie, the Shaolin Temple.
Yeah.
I think that's like 81 or something. I remember the first time that I remember very clearly the first time that I rented The Ring was from Suspect. So Suspect was pretty good. Like, I think also like I was kind of late to the party with like From Beyond, like the Stuart Gordon movie. I got that from there too. But I mean, that's like later in life. That's like when I was like living in Toronto. When I was in Mississauga, it was like Lorne Park Video just at the strip mall by like the AMP grocery store, and that was the video store for like a long time. And yeah, I don't know, whatever. Like if we're talking about like memories and stuff, I mean, I remember like the Metamorphosis VHS cover, and you press the button and the eyes light up yellow and they go wee, 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 wee.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Holy shit.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
Well,
about it. And then
what about theaters? A movie theater? Did you have a lot of time with family or yourself? Was that something that you spent time going to?
not really, like not any more than anyone else. I remember taking the bus to South Common Mall when I was like a young teenager, like 14. And I often would go and see movies there, like, and the place would be completely empty. I remember seeing The Black Mask with Jet Li in
Mm.
a completely empty theater all by myself. And then I also remember seeing Virtuosity with Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington in a completely empty theater at South Common Mall.
Okay.
It was just like a dingy ass theater that didn't fill out at all. Didn't do very good business, but stayed open. I mean, that's basically the early things I can remember in terms of just seeing movies and stuff. But like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really. Maybe you want to be talking about like horror or whatever, or like stuff that's kind of more. I don't know, underground, or is that what you want to hear about? What do you want to hear about?
I mean, these are just the earlier memories, the earlier interests that kind of peaked, where all of this is now coming from, and kind of stemming from. And I guess, mentioning discovering horror, is there something as far as, a family member or you stumbling upon a movie for the first time and seeing, what a horror movie was? Does that come to mind to you?
Not really.
No.
Like
Okay.
horror. Like I mean, I remember like okay. Do you remember the Monster Squad, the
Oh
Fred Dekker
yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
So I remember there's a part in that movie where like the youngest kid, the character is named Eugene in the film, and
Mm.
he's writing a letter to uh, it's like, dear army guys, there are monsters, like send help or whatever. And I remember being so young when I saw that I didn't, I was like, because I couldn't write at that time. Like I saw it at the time at a point in my life where I was like too young to know how to write. And I remember
Okay.
just being like, oh damn, that kid's little, but he knows how to write. So I guess I must have thought pretty early if I didn't know how to write. That's that's the best thing I can give you in terms of that. I remember watching Predator with my dad and my uncle when I was in New Jersey visiting one time, and that being like life changing. Look at this light, ooh, spooky. Anyways,
Beautiful.
do you remember just like watching Predator like with your? Well, I mean, do you remember like? I don't know what your experience watching Predator was like, but when I watched it with my dad and my uncle, like it felt like I was being led into the man club or something. It was just like, I'm sitting here with my dad
Okay.
and my uncle, and I'm watching this movie with swearing and blood and all these like muscle dudes and war stuff, and like I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, like super stoked on just the camaraderie and hanging out with my dad and my uncle. Like I remember that being kind of like formative. Like that's also sort of a clear memory, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like all that's missing is a nice cigar or maybe a glass of, a whiskey at that young age watching it. But you definitely feel it for
Yeah,
sure.
like a hooker, just like just just us triple teaming a hooker. Come on, get in there, boy.
So I mean, and you've mentioned your appreciation for Predator, but not so much the sequel. Is there anything that comes to mind as
Oh
far as
yeah.
a movie that you do love? The sequel as much, if not maybe even more than the original.
Uh, I don't know, like a sequel that's better than I mean, the usual suspects. Like the James Cameron Terminator 2 and Aliens.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
but like I think that like yeah, I don't know, dude. I can't give any like sort of original good answers for that, to be honest. Like all my answers are just like the ones that everyone would say, like Godfather 2 and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't, and yeah, most of the time I can't. Most of the time, whenever I try to think about something like this, I can't really think of a good cool answer. So I don't know. Let's not bore your audience here.
Aliens is still a good one. Terminator 2. I mean, yeah, everything that you mentioned that's good. In these watches, does anything come to mind as far as an irrational fear? Maybe you were a little kid watching Predator for the first time and you saw something. You're like, oh shit, maybe can that happen in real life? Did anything come out of, some of these earlier watches, or something that you've watched as a horror movie that you never thought about as a fear before?
That's a good question. Again, kind of a boring answer, but like I remember being like extremely scared at the 1990 made-for-TV movie for the Stephen King novel It, the one that you have the poster for behind you.
Yeah.
Like just being like it's actually super embarrassing to like it's super embarrassing to become afraid of Tim Curry, the actor. You know what I mean? Like, because in fact, I wasn't afraid. I was afraid of the clown in It, but I wasn't afraid of clowns. I was afraid of Tim Curry. I was afraid of like him and like it's like you watch him in like Home Alone 2 and you're like oh damn, that's that guy, like
yeah,
or like in Rocky Horror Picture Show, you're like, oh damn, is he gonna fucking sneak into bed with me? So.
Oh, man.
Stuff, maybe that's the best one I can think of.
I mean, it's hilarious, and I mean, now that you say that too, I can kind of picture, myself as far as with him and these other characters, where it's like, something's not right about you, man.
I mean, he seems like a wonderful guy,
Yeah, for sure.
But the thing too is like I love his performance in It because he kind of does this sort of like I'm a hobo on the street. Hey, Georgie, let's, like he's like this sort of filthy kind of New York kind of guy. Like that's what he does with
right.
his voice. And it kind of plays very, very in a very nuanced way on sort of this like pedophile-y kind of thing, which is like really, really super smart to kind of use that kind of ammunition in a made-for-TV movie where it's kind of like he's doing something, but like. It's not super overt, but it really kind of taps into a fear like that, maybe parents are watching it and they're just like, oh damn, I don't want that nasty ass motherfucker near my kids, So
right. Oh god. At one point some years ago, you had mentioned you had a From Beyond DVD and stating that the bootleg cover art was better than the official release. Bring us back to as far as maybe a release, or something from your collection that you absolutely love that may include your favorite cover art.
I'm not much of a collector.
Okay.
I tend to like that From Beyond cover was I recall that bootleg. It was the Spanish release, the Spanish poster, and the if you look at sort of like what the DVD release looks like for the probably like the early 2000s or like around 2006 or something, or 2004, the release for From Beyond, it's really bad. It's like this shitty sort of photoshopped kind of thing that's completely made like out of whole cloth. Like they didn't use any of the images from the original.
Right.
But the Spanish one is an original painting, and it's just crazy. Like I know that you saw that on my Instagram because I know that I posted that stuff.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah. But the as far as like my I don't know. Like I said, I'm not much of a collector. I just I don't know. There's nothing that I really own that I hold very dear to my heart. I'm too much of a hippie for that. I'm not. I don't covet my material possessions. I covet my chakras and my relationships with my fellow man.
Okay. So digging in a little bit, as far as with the sadness, a common rumble, before seeing the movie was the extremity of it and some of the things that happen in the movie. With that in mind, what can you tell us about 3 scenes in either horror or out of horror that are forever ingrained in your brain? Something that comes to mind as far as maybe it was nasty, it was terrifying, it was, just something completely unforgettable. What comes to mind?
Oh, like, I mean, the best number one scene. This isn't like something that like bugged me out a lot, but it's more like just something that I love, like, and it's sort of, been a scene that has driven me as like a, I don't know, like an artist or creator, filmmaker, whatever. but it's the scene in Hellraiser, the first Hellraiser, where Frank comes back from the dead, and he comes through the floorboards, and they do all that backwards photography of like the melting organs, and they're pulling wires through melted wax, and cranking the camera backwards so it's in reverse, and then they like, it's just so good. Like, it's just so good, and that idea of like step by step how this is happening was really, really just like I can't believe this. This is amazing, you know. So that's definitely the one that I think is like, you know, just amazing and just gorgeous, like just beautiful, and like and I can watch it. I never get bored of watching that scene. I always watch that whenever that movie comes on or whatever. I always make a point to just, you know, put down my phone and just regard that scene with reverence.
Okay.
As far as like disturbing stuff is concerned, I don't know. Like, I mean, disturbing is kind of, it's very contextual, you know, like,
Sure.
like, I mean, you know, like a lot of stuff, if you show something, like, for example, like the you know, the Exorcist 3 scare, like this famous one where with the long shot and everything. Like that one is like, it's like, if you just show that to somebody, like completely out of context, like if you just, like, I'm saying, like, show it from the beginning, like from when the nurse is walking around and there's that fake out where she goes into that room, and then eventually, like, you know, there's that it settles on that long shot, and then you know, the robed figure comes out with those large shears, and I guess kills her off screen. If you just show that to somebody without them watching the whole movie, they're probably not going to be that affected by it, because you need to kind of, you know, you need to see that part before in the church. You need to see all this, like the death of Father Karras. Sorry, not Father Karras, but the other one. What's the name of the other guy?
I know you're talking about. I can't think of what his name was, but yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
It's Ed Flanders, who's the actor. Okay. Not Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, but what is his name? God damn it! Wouldn't it be funny if I just, like, you know, hemmed and hawed about his name for like two full minutes, and it was just super boring.
The whole rest of the interview is just that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I'll leave that one alone. But like the thing is just like that you need to sort of see that whole thing in order to really get some to get scared by that thing, because you need to know you need to be familiar with the whole vibe of the movie and all that kind of stuff. And the same thing with like disturbing stuff. I mean, because it's all fake. It's all, you know, just rubber and fake blood and stuff. Like you need to kind of be seduced by the movie in order for it to work properly. So I mean, I don't know. Like I think there are some movies that are great, that do this stuff really awesome. I'm still like a big supporter of, like, another boring answer, I'm a big supporter of Martyrs. I think that the finale of that film, I have no idea how people, there's some people out there who are like, oh, that the end of that movie is such a cop out. I'm like, what are you talking about? In what world is that a cop out? It's like, like, and these are people who have never written anything, never made anything. They're just yahoos, you know, just like, it's just a fucking cop out, you know. It's like, it's too pretentious. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's amazing. Like, like setting it all up for that to be the ending. Again, context, right? Like, you need the whole movie for that ending to work.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, I can really point to a specific scene. I guess I kind of just I don't really have any good answer for that. I guess I kind of gave you some. You know, I think that there's
can't cut yourself short. and Martyrs too. I mean, mentioning that movie is so awesome. I've loved that, and still actually don't have an official release of it. But I have a DVD. I think it's like a bootleg or like a Blockbuster version. But yeah, what a great movie. That movie is absolutely awesome for sure. You know,
it blew me away when I first saw it.
You know, as far as, you know, touching on the sadness, you know, with all the gore and, you know, kind of the shock scenes that, you know, people are mentioning. The one thing that really stuck out to me, and still that I'll mention, before we kind of move on, is the hospital scene when, you're panning on the security guard and then he moves over a little. You have the businessman right behind. I don't want to, get into like spoilers, but I was like, that was sick. That was fucking awesome. I absolutely love that. And, some of the score behind it. Anyway, we'll move on there. So, where does your transition, go into as far as making your own first movie, whether it was with friends or maybe a school project, something? How does that come about as far as starting to shoot stuff yourself?
Oh, I mean, I don't shoot anything myself. I'm not a camera guy. Like, I don't know anything about cameras. Like, I'm an animator. Like, from if you want to talk about sort of my experience with sort of making, quote unquote films, my experience is almost entirely with animation, and that's kind of the way I think about stuff. As far as cameras are concerned, like, I got familiar with sort of just the idea of like focal length and depth of field and sort of cinematography, I guess, to some extent by working in 3D programs and sort of understand, because they have sort of physically accurate cameras in all these programs. So that's where it comes from. But I mean, I don't know. Like when I was a kid, I never really made movies. I'd make lots of comics, do a lot of drawings and stuff. Just little comics you make when you're a kid. But as far as like filmmaking is concerned, I didn't really even start doing it until I was probably in my like mid-20s, and it was making cartoons. It was making animations. And then I kind of just thought to myself, like, oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to be fucking, Walt Disney over here? Am I going to be Don Bluth? Am I going to make animated films? What am I going to do? Go try to get a job at Disney and draw like palm tree leaves like all day, like working on a straight to video Tarzan movie, just drawing palm tree leaves like all day. Like it seems like such a dog shit job. So I just thought, well, what I can probably do is I can do like animation for companies like just like explainer videos and like tech videos for companies that have money, and I can at least make a living using this sort of specialized skill. And then I just ended up kind of meeting Jeff Wang, who wanted to do a movie, and he got it in his head that I was the right guy to write a script, and I did, and then we made The Saddness, and that's kind of just the way it went down. I feel so funny talking about like how the whole thing worked out, because it just doesn't. It's so unusual. It's such a weird thing. I'm just this kind of guy who got an opportunity to make a movie, and then I said, okay, I'll give it a shot, and then I gave it a shot, and then The Sadness got made.
right. I think it's such a cool thing as far as just for seeing, people like, with it being a very, like kind of sporadic, opportunity, obviously, but, for people to not give up that are, really aspiring to get into film or to get into different things. And, it's kind of a tip of the hat, for, I feel success like this, or an awesome movie to come out of the situation like that too. And initially, meeting Jeff, what can you tell us about? So you initially wrote the script, but you've mentioned that you rewrote the ending. Where did that come about, as far as that you wanted to redo the final act there?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, first of all, to your previous point about sort of it being kind of like, like an inspiring story. Like if I were an inspiring filmmaker, I would hate me, because I didn't try. I didn't do anything. Like I didn't actually make any real effort. It just totally stumbled into it. And there are people who like I'm going to move to Hollywood and I'm going to work as a barback for 5 years and try to show people my script while they treat me like dog shit. And then maybe I'll, go in, then I'll, try to get a writer's room job, and they're struggling and they're trying so hard, and they think they have something to say, and then they just hear like, oh yeah, so this guy just kind of, some guy just gave this guy some money and then he went and made a movie, and you know what I'm saying? Like I'd just be like, fuck that guy, fuck Rob the Bags, that's what I would say.
but you had the passion, you know, you making the shorts, you know, you having your work in animation. I mean, there was a reason that he was talking to you about those things. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, maybe, you know, some of these cats are concentrating on the wrong act of it. You know, I hear lots of people mentioning, you know, a really big thing that kind of kicked off their career was making shorts, or, you know, taking something that they were going to make a full length and having, you know, a 10 or 15-minute version of that and putting that out to people. You know, I just mean as far as
Right.
like having the passion behind it and, you know, going out and doing it.
I think that like you know, the lesson to take away from it all is just like it's entirely based on just luck. It's entirely based on just
Right.
you know, just dumb circumstantial luck and just being in the right place at the right time, and you know, hopefully, you when you are in the right place at the right time, you're able to kind of think on your feet and put something together that you're not embarrassed of at the end of the day, you know.
Sure.
And I'm not embarrassed of The Sadness. I think The Sadness is a good piece of horror film cinema. So, anyways, what was the other thing you said? You were saying something about
Rewriting the final act.
oh, right, yeah, I got it. Okay, let me do that. So, what that was, okay. So okay, the original thing that was supposed to happen in the film was like early in the film, there's sort of like a cute kind of like pet name that's established that Jim calls Kat. Like he calls her like, you know, honestly, I can't even remember what it was. Like, let's just say for the sake of talking about it, it was like I don't know, Cupcake. Let's say Cupcake. Sure. So he's like, all right, Cupcake, I love you, Cupcake. And then like later, then the movie goes on and whatever. And then at the very end, when they finally meet at the very end, she's face to face with him, and then he like, he kind of like makes her cry by like calling her Cupcake again or something. Mm-hmm. And and that's sort of what makes her cry. And then when she goes upstairs, she's you know, she's killed by the army because they think that she's infected because she's crying. And this is all predicated on the idea that the sadness, the film was originally supposed to be kind of like, if you get this virus, you're crying, and that's supposed to be sort of emphasized more, like in the beginning, in the early drafts of the script. But then we ended up shooting it, and I ended up sort of forgetting about, you know, having people cry or have tears come out of their eyes, like when we were doing it. So, so then I started looking at the end of the script, and I was just like, the only way that this works is if we have, it would be if we had emphasized the tears thing more, but we haven't. So I'm going to have to kind of change it to him doing kind of like a heel turn, and then what we'll do is we'll try to like, and then actually last minute, I think that sort of a couple days before, I kind of thought it would be cool to do sort of the Friday the 13th Part 3, like crying goes to laughing thing, which you also see actually at the end of From Beyond. We mentioned From Beyond too, like sort of just, it's like a broken mind, you know? So I thought that would be cool. Because I've seen that happen, like actually in From Beyond, it's Barbara Crampton who does it. And I actually don't really like her performance in that scene. I like her performance in that film, but I don't like that ending because I don't think she sells it terribly well. But I mean, she's great in the rest of that movie. And then in Friday the 13th Part 3, I don't know who the actress is, but do you remember when they're taking her away in the cop car and she's like, yeah, she's crying and then she's like laughing hysterically? I think that one's a good one. I think that one's a really underrated performance. But I just thought, yeah, I'll try to have a movie where I have one of those too, because you don't see them that often. So that was basically the way that it changed.
So cutting into the sadness. So starting off here, you know, I wanted to start, you know, touching on what was the first scene that really kicked everything off as far as for filming for the movie.
Hold on, I'm gonna jump up on this wall.
Cool.
Oh. All right, I'm on a wall. So what's the scene that really kicked this off? Well, okay, I'll tell you. It's a scene that I guess wasn't in the film. It was a scene where there's like the idea, the idea is like, if you get this disease, you cry, and that's the indicator that you have it. So the scene is sort of like, there's a bunch of people in a hospital, and there's a bunch, there's a bunch of like crazy, not like the Saddness crazy people, but just like, nervous, regular people who are uninfected. And they're like, like, we gotta fucking kill these people. They're gonna kill us. And then, it's like, how do you know if they're infected? It's like, they cry, there's tears coming out their eyes. So then there's like little kids there, and they're like scared. And then their mother's just like, don't cry, don't cry. Like, if you do, then these guys will kill you, And, so then it was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, that's a cool scene. And then it's like, yeah, the sadness. Yeah, all right, Okay. And then when we started making the film, I decided to kind of, not really go into that direction as much. Like I decided, let's just make this like a gory horror movie instead of trying to kind of sort of come up with something clever. Yeah. Let's just make it like a gory action horror movie.
Okay. All right. What was the first scene that you guys filmed?
The first scene that we filmed is boring. It's the video for the YouTube video, like the video of the doctor and the podcast guy like talking on their podcast. That was, we did all that in like one day, and we just did it in the office. And then the second day was when we blew up the president's head, and that was good for morale, because everybody was like stoked, like, oh right, we get to blow something up, like people don't usually get to do that sort of thing. But yeah, that was the fun, good second day scene to shoot.
Yeah, so I take it that was the first moment of any sort of gore that you got to shoot, and for everybody to kind of see like, oh, okay, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing here, this is exciting. I like this.
Not really,
not so much.
It's like, well, no, I mean, it's because it's it's like it sort of feels like silly, or like, it didn't feel like a gore. What I'm trying to say is that it didn't feel like a gore scene when we shot it. It was more just like, oh, we're gonna do like a pyrotechnic sort of stunt thing. Like, it's actually funny, man. I think that pretty much, like, for most of the shoot, nobody really even had any idea what the film would be like at all. Like, they had no idea. Like, they were reading the script, and they were looking at a lot of the vulgar lines, like a lot of the businessman, like, oh, I'm so hard, my dick is so hard right now, oh, I want to have a threesome with you girls, like this kind of stuff. And they were just thinking it was like supposed to be funny, like it was like a horror comedy. Oh, so this is a horror comedy. I see, Okay, yeah, sure. And then we just kind of did it, and then when we cut it together, I think some of them kind of just got the picture for the first time when we cut it together finally. And I think there's a few people on set who just thought that I didn't know like what the fuck I was doing at all. Like, I had no plan. I was just doing something, but I was an imbecile and I didn't know what I was doing. And there's definitely a few people who I know felt that way. Because I mean, I am the way I am, like I this is how I am all the time. And I can see how there's some people who just appreciate the more sort of professional approach to like their boss, aka their director, Yeah.
So. I mean, having a little fun with it, I don't think that's a bad thing. As far as inspirations, you've mentioned, both the original and newer update of Evil Dead. You've mentioned, the Crossed comic book, even Pee-wee's Big Adventure. As far as for pacing, what were some inspirations as far as like a visual aesthetic? Was there anything as far as maybe the graininess of it, or the look, the maybe not cinematography, but the visuals of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted it to feel urgent, and I had just seen Uncut Gems.
Oh yeah,
like sort of that was like the last movie that I saw before I started shooting The Sadness, the one that really impressed me. And just sort of like the handheld sort of like NYPD Blue kind of camera work. was really inspiring. Also, like as far as the graininess and stuff was concerned, that really does have a lot more to do with like the post production process. And Paul Hanrahan, who did the coloring, but I did that with him, very closely. Although he did come up with all this sort of idea of like adding all this grain to the film.
Okay.
But as far as like the coloring is concerned, I actually, that's funny. It's funny that we were talking about Predator 2, because I actually was looking to Predator 2 in terms of like just the heat. Like, but what's funny is that when I actually like, I just kept being like, yeah, like Predator 2, just add more heat, like add some more sort of like chocolatey brown into the blacks, and just try to make it look like everyone's hot, like sweat, hot, heat. and then the guy's like, okay, yeah, I get it, and we would kind of do it, and then just sort of out of curiosity, I just watched Predator 2, and I was like, oh, I actually don't want it to look like Predator 2 at all. Like that's not. It was just like a false memory, you know. So like, but at least the guy got what I was talking about. Like Predator 2 has a look like everyone's like, you have like Danny Glover, like that yellow shirt that he wears is just like wet between his shoulder blades. It's just soaking wet with his sweat, you know. And it's just like, yeah, that's kind of what I want out of this film. Just like sweaty, uncomfortable, humid, like, because that's really what Taipei is. Like, you know, to me, a lot of the times is just sort of this like unbearably humid, sweaty place in the summertime. And getting caught outside for like full days is just like, it's pretty rough sometimes, you know. But I mean, it beats Toronto winter, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. I'm in Michigan, and we're just finally all of a sudden getting something of a summer too. So thank God for a little bit of warmth for sure. One thing that I'm a little surprised I haven't seen people mention yet, as far as reviews or just talking the movie, this cartoon that plays, and more or less the finale of it. What can you tell us about this and some of the aspects of what happens in it?
I made that cartoon in I think 2015 or so.
Okay.
And it's like I just was, I think I had just seen Kill List, the Ben Wheatley movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh yeah, like a sort of a procession of the occult, you know, like an occult procession. That's cool. And then I thought, and also when you're doing like animation, like walk cycles are very sort of, there's a lot of resources sort of like available to do walk cycles, like in terms of references. So I just thought, I'll just make a bunch of walk cycles, and I'll put them all together, and I'll make this sort of cartoon of just sort of a weird sort of march of these sort of Disney characters. The Disney character thing kind of, I'm not even sure where that came from. But anyways, yeah, like then I just kind of started thinking like, oh yeah, like, you know, ritual abuse, like satanic ritual abuse syndrome, like the scare of the 80s, the religious scare of the 80s. And then I just thought, oh yeah, like maybe they should all be, you know, fucking each other or something. And so and then, you know, when you're making this stuff thinking that no one's ever going to see it, you know, like it's just sort of like your own little sort of sick thing that you're doing. And then it ended up just being used in the film because I wanted there to be a cartoon on this TV screen at some point. And I was originally going to use like a public domain cartoon, but then it occurred to me to use that one because no one, you know, like everyone just exactly like this interview, like people would just be like, what the hell was that cartoon? Where'd you get that? Because there would be no reason, or there'd be no chance for anyone to have seen it before unless they'd looked at my YouTube page. And by the way, it's been since The Sadness came out, somebody really cool went on my YouTube page and like flagged that video as like offensive. So it's not on my YouTube anymore, but it's definitely still on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, I had to rewind it because I was like, I did not just see that. And I rewound it and I was like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Oh god! All right, so you've touched on an element with the zombie genre as far as wanting to include a memorable villain. For lack of the terms that calling the Sadness a zombie film. But including a
Yeah.
memorable villain, and I feel like Mr. Wang certainly brought that. What can you tell us about himself and what he brought to that role that may have not even been in the script that he just brought to screen?
Oh, I mean, he brought sort of this. He brought kind of like this darkness. Like originally, the character was written to be more of like a Jack Nicholson in The Shining, sort of third act of The Shining, Jack Nicholson,
Oh, okay.
or or maybe like some iteration of the Joker from Batman.
Okay.
But then. But then, and he did that originally, and he does do that sometimes. But then he started bringing this intense like darkness to the role, and I think that that was what really made the character kind of come to life. And yeah, so that's sort of just like like he's like laughing, and then he's just like becoming this sort of dark, intense kind of character. And then I started showing those dailies to the composer Ming from the group Sichar, and I was like, look at this fucking guy, this wild guy over here. He's like, oh damn, let me try to write some music for that. And then then I'd show him the music. I'd show Wang Zichang the music, and then he'd be like, oh yeah, and it would be kind of like a creative sort of synergy, where it's like the director, the actor, and the composer kind of like working together to sort of just build this character, kind of develop this character together. And it was pretty cool. Like that's actually from the perspective of a guy who does animation. It was a new experience of working collaboratively like that with actors and other people. So it was like, really, really, probably the most like rewarding and the most exciting aspect of just my experience of making like a live action feature.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he brought such a stillness. I feel like that was like the most uncomfortable thing about him was there's just so many times that it was like even him just standing there, it was like, oh my God. Yeah. He for sure, had a presence to him.
Yeah.
As far as, with the score, how did that come about, working with, is it Chazar? I don't want to mispronounce that.
It's Sichar.
Tichar, okay.
Like yeah, but anyways, yeah, like I just found like, to be honest, like I look back on that decision and how sort of flagrantly it was made, because I was just like, oh, these guys are cool, let's get them to do it, and then oh, these guys were yelling, and then I was just like, I was just like, oh yeah, let's get them to do it, and then I just sort of trusted them to do the entire score of the film and put it all in their hands. And I really had no idea who they were. I just listened, and also the music that I heard on the SoundCloud was just K-pop remixes. And I was just kind of like, maybe these guys are the ones to do it. And then I just started talking with Ming from Sichar, and like we just sort of got along, and it just felt fine. And I really had no reason to think that they would do a good job, because none of the music they made actually sounded like what I wanted. But I just sort of thought that they could do it. And then yeah, next thing you know, they did it, and they made all the music, and it's amazing. It's all like perfect,
Absolutely.
So that just goes to show like luck, luck is the name of the game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even there was, different moments where it was like, maybe, I don't know if it was like a saxophone, but it was just this subtle, like kind of saxophone type playing. Like it almost like brought me back to like a Naked Lunch type thing. But completely worked,
right.
Was
absolutely
a feel. I love that. What was the last scene?
The instrument.
Go on. Sorry.
The instrument is actually called a suona. It's like a Chinese sort of woodwind instrument.
Oh,
it's like it's actually not a it's actually, or no, sorry, not a woodwind, but a reed instrument, like a clarinet, or an oboe or something.
Uh-huh.
But in any case, it's like a pretty traditional instrument that's used in like sort of Chinese music or whatever. So yeah, actually Ming was the one who kind of spearheaded that idea of using those kinds of instruments like erhu and suona.
What was the last shot that wrapped up the sadness?
Hey Esther, how you doing? Esther's here. She's actually did the special effects on the
Awesome.
on the sadness.
Awesome.
Say hello, Esther. Say hi. Type hi. Anyways, sorry, what was your question?
The last shot that wrapped up the shooting for the film.
Oh, the last shot was the well, you know what it was? It was actually like the what the hell was it? I think it might have been like the helicopter, the running up the stairs shot.
Okay.
Or something like that. I think it might have been that. I also remember doing a bunch of pickups at the end. Do you remember there's like an insert where Kat gets kicked in the ass by the little guy, the little wee guy with the tits on as his lock screen on his phone?
Yeah.
When, there's a close up where he kicks her in her ass, and Regina, the actress who played Kat, was actually already wrapped at that point. So then what we did was we just got like this girl who was in wardrobe who was similarly built and put her in the pencil skirt, and then just a stunt guy put a shoe on his hand, and then he just like hit her in the ass with the shoe. And then it was like, all right, the sadness has been officially wrapped, go home, everybody. See you at the wrap party.
Awesome.
So maybe that was the last actual shot. Yeah.
Okay. No, another thing too, we were talking the music and everything. The end credits, you had Crying City. How did that come about? Having some pretty sick death metal, something that I'd never even heard of before. How did they come about being involved with this?
Oh, I mean, Ashen is the band,
Ashen, right.
And they're just this band that's been doing their thing in Taipei for like years, like 13 years, just doing grindcore and death metal and stuff. And I just thought we should use a local band, like a local Taipei band, to have the end credits. And I looked through Ashen's. I like metal quite a lot, and I go to the shows and stuff, and I like to support the scene in Taipei because it's very small, and it really, it is kept alive by, obviously, like any scene, by people going to the shows and paying to see the shows and stuff. And Ashen's just, they're always working and they're always doing their thing. And I thought, if there's one band that has never stopped working, it's Ashen. So, and then I looked through their catalog, and I was like, oh, there's a song called Crying City. So I was like, oh, that's got to be the one, 1 minute long, perfect for the single card credits, and then we can have another song afterwards. That's I actually Sichar made the people who did the score for the Sadness actually did the final song that goes through the crawl.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
If you could have kept something from the set, I know you mentioned, not being the biggest collector or anything, but something that was just, kind of memorable to you, or if you did keep something from the set, what would you have had, kept from the Sadness?
Well, actually, I'll show you.
Sweet.
I have turn the camera around. I have this head here from, we made two heads. We made two heads for when we exploded the president.
Dude,
and
so
and this head, we had two made because we thought, like, okay, if the first one doesn't work, then we'll have another one. And it was already like 6:30 at night or 7 o'clock, and I was just like, looking at the playback. We shot it at like super slow motion. I was just like, yeah, look, it looks good to me. And everybody was like, yeah, because they're all happy that they could go home early. We didn't have to like clean up the mess and try to do it again, So the special effects team, they gave me the spare head as like a memento. Or you know what? No, I think I asked for it. I think I was like, can I have that? And they gave it to me.
That is so awesome.
So
That
that's
is
what
so
happened.
killer too. Yeah. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.